is joining us on this one.
Oh, hi, Joyce.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are so grateful that you guys are joining us this morning. It's a beautiful, beautiful Friday morning in Earlham, Iowa, like Kim and Michelle were talking about. And this is the third webinar that we have going today, and I think we are getting all the kinks figured out. With technology, we just never know, and with animals, you just never know what's going to happen. So I would like to point out and make sure that everybody has their chat box open, and please choose the all panelists and attendees. I guess this is the third webinar. I haven't said who I am. I'm Dana Miller with Inspiring Solutions.
Yay, Dana! She's got new cowboy boots on too. Straight from Nashville.
Yes, ma'am.
So as you can tell, we are having a great time doing this. It's nice to be outside and enjoying the weather. But please feel free to ask any questions in the chat box, and I will relay that information. I will be putting out some questions to you as well. So this is about being interactive and a good learning experience. So as I said, we are going to be with Kim Gratney and Cindy Kuhl. We are in for a real treat. You're going to get a small sampling of horse-guided coaching with what they call themselves Human Development Wranglers. I love that name. Kim Gratney and Cindy Kuhl, and this is the first live on-site webinar with animals. And we think, oh, Joyce, I can smell the horses.
Thank you, Joyce, for weighing in.
So bear with us. We never know what's going to happen with technology or the horses. So the purpose of our webinars is to deliver some monthly motivation and to expose you to one of our inspiring programs or products. And we also like to invite guest presenters to showcase their expertise in what they do. So today's agenda, I'm going to introduce you to two amazing women who are passionate about not only their horses, but helping people improve relationships. You'll see firsthand how horse-guided coaching works with Michelle as the learner, which is a big change for her because she is usually the coach. And Kim and Michelle will reflect on what she discovered during each exercise and how it relates to our daily relationships. And feel free again to type your questions into the chat box and let me know what resonates with you. You should have received an email this morning with your handouts, the webinar materials. You should have the sheet that says aha moments, and that's a sheet that you can take notes that Kim and Michelle discuss their experiences, what resonates with, and what resonates with you. And Kim and Cindy will be hosting a mini workshop October 2nd. And they have a generous webinar special that I will share with you at the end of the webinar. And then you should have their flyer, how we serve, and then our webinar schedule. So without further ado, I would like to, I'm trying to see Michelle here. I don't see her. There she is.
We see her though. And the reason we don't see her is that she has decided to show up and step in to a pretty interesting position. Michelle, would you tell us a little bit about how you're being?
Well, it's one of those things where you kind of feel like you're the pickle in the middle. And how much did you say these guys weigh?
Anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 pounds,
Okay,
which
so,
I'm guessing is not the same as you.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm feeling the love, but I'm also feeling a little fearful because I never know what these guys might be doing.
Well said. Yes. Thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. And I love that you are being really authentic right now. And most of all, what I love about you, just from knowing you, you bring so much exuberance to every setting. And for you to put yourself in this position is a huge amount of trust. But also, I want to point out there's some really desire to control. If I'm close, I can control. And so if you're up for it, Michelle, I want to challenge you just a little bit and see what you think of removing one of these. These are tools, right, for leading and guiding horses, halter, lead rope.
Empowering.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. But yeah, what do you think if we take one of these off? In fact, I'll have you do that.
Which one, this guy?
Yep. Why don't
This
you
is
let
Will?
this guy go? I'm going to
Okay.
creep in here for a minute.
I can take him.
Kind of swing this over, or you can take him. Cindy.
Yep. The way I should do it.
Yep. Just take that that loop there. But we're going. So Michelle in this moment is really willing to be challenged. Michelle, what would be easier for you to, as far as how you're showing up in this moment? What would be easiest?
For you to do this.
Okay, for me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how
Because
about keep the halter and lead rope on?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right? Yeah, because it gives us that
Some
sense of
control.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And you are so vulnerable and transparent in your leadership about why vulnerability is really key.
You know, I think anytime you realize that you're not perfect
Mm-hmm.
and you have fears,
Excuse me?
inhibitions, you know, especially with COVID going on right now, you know, there's so much uncertainty, so much fear. I think if you can tune in to how you are in a given day, in a given situation, and express some of that anxiety, even to family, to friends, it can help you heal in itself. And so, you know, just being around these horses today, I have great respect for them because they are definitely beautiful animals. You are extremely talented and gifted, and I haven't near the experience that you've had with these guys.
I appreciate that. And experience is really all about just the willingness to be in relationship. So if we think about what has transpired here this morning, that first point about slowing down to be real, you have done a tremendous job of being real, talking about that fear, talking about that discomfort. And can you help us to understand a little bit, as you approach Will for a moment, what you've learned about the need and the value of going slowly?
Well, you know, I have quite a bit of energy, and I think it was Friday, so I was a little bit anxious to see how this all was all going to pay out. And as you can see right now, they weren't ready for this. And so I think so many times we assume that someone might be ready to hear our message or to be in a conversation or to do a task. And so we have to be aware of and sensitive to other people's needs and ask. You've been using the term asking for permission to address someone or asking permission to ask somebody to do something for you.
Yes. And what happens when when we as human beings come into a space and want to be all about our agenda and all about the doing? And what are we learning about the impact of the doing versus the being and the slowness? So to ask a better question, can you share with us one takeaway of the value of being slow as you approach the will?
Yeah. I think in our busyness of our life, you know, the number of emails, the number of tasks to do.
Number of meetings.
Yes, exactly. We don't have focus. We don't have clarity. And I think without clear objectives or clear expectations of someone else, it only creates chaos. We had a little bit of chaos before the 9 o'clock because we all kind of came together and shared some space, and the horses were like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And so we saw some rambunctious kids, if you would,
Or employees.
employees.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, wonderful. So as we segue into, so Michelle again has seen the value of just going slow as she approaches Will. And that segues nicely into our second point of talk with us a little bit, Michelle, about the act of actively listening to suspend judgment and what happens in that moment when Will is choosing to walk away from you and how you're listening and what you're listening with.
Well, you know, we listen with our ears, but we also listen with what we see. And so obviously Yeller's thinking, okay, why should I not be the center of attention? So being an active listener, you are not only aware of your agenda, but what might be the agenda of someone else. And I think when you bring up the term judgment, we can label that horse as being disruptive or inattentive. And we do that at home. We do that at work. We don't really understand where people are coming from. What's their motivation? So right now they're motivated to have a little breakfast or snack.
Yeah, they spend about 90% of their lives grazing. And so the challenge for you then becomes, because we remove that tool of control of the halter and the lead rope, the opportunity that's really here for you in this moment with either one of these horses, either Yeller or Will, you can choose, is to think about how am I listening? So I heard you talk about listening with ears, but also eyes. So what am I noticing of the nonverbals that Will is exhibiting now? So what are you noticing in this moment?
He's probably not interested in what we're doing because he's kind of got his own agenda.
He does. And how do you know that?
Well, I think no eye contact. So that's always an indicator. And he's doing something not a part of our conversation.
Yes, he has completely removed himself from the relationship, which then, of course, this always just erupts organically and ties into that third point of be interested, not interesting. So in this moment, for you to get back in relationship with Will, what are you learning is the ideal approach in order to experience
And I
that?
gotta say, this is like breaking my paradigm because I've always been told don't approach a horse from the rear, so I've watched, I've seen how it is safe. So you're teaching me to be vulnerable and comfortable with myself and trust Will and approach him from behind.
And what transpires when you're willing to put yourself in a vulnerable position with a creature much larger than yourself?
Yeah. I think it's probably overcoming some of his fear, anxiety. I didn't realize they don't see up front, and that when they feel that touch from the behind, it's establishing that respect or trust.
Yes, I love your point. They do not see directly behind them or on their noses. So you are going into the blind spot.
Yes.
And how many blind spots do people have?
Good point.
Leaders and their teams. How many blind spots are there? And how often do we get distracted or sidetracked by those blind spots?
COVID, a great example. We don't know what's going to happen through COVID.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to react, to this.
So we're all holding our breath.
Yes. Okay. So we've been good so far, so good. Okay, there we are.
So as you move into that, tell us a little bit about what's going on with your being self. So within you,
Besides my heart pounding.
in addition to, I bet.
Yes. I think it's, as with practice, the more you do something, the more it becomes comfortable. As with change, something that doesn't first seem uncomfortable, giving it a try, and this too shall pass. So
Yes.
my fear is probably lessening each time we've done this activity this morning.
Yes.
How scary is it as a leader, Michelle, to step in to be something and be vulnerable when you think you should know all the answers?
It's a big risk because you don't know if your vision or if your objectives with a team or a project are going to pan out. So learning to somewhat, trust your instincts, but be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the industry that you work, be aware of best practices. You've taught me some best practices in dealing with horses that I can apply. So we don't have to go through scary times or the uncertainty with COVID or anything in life alone.
Yes. And I appreciate your point about what you've been learning, knowing that these horses have been trained with relationship at the heart. And this is not something we recommend doing with just any horse. It's because of how they have been trained and worked with to focus on relationship over everything else. Relationship over process, right? Relationship over result. And so as Will has made his way over there, let's tie into how can you ask Will a question and ask for that acknowledgement, which illustrates being interested in him instead of being an interesting human. We all know. Anyone who
do we
knows
want to do
Michelle,
Yeller or Will?
we sure can.
Okay, let's do. Yeller's
he's here.
close.
Yes, he sure is.
Okay.
And we're going to remove this this tool, right?
Yes.
Why don't you come over here for a minute and undo it? So just a different way of doing it, another way. So equipping you with numerous tools. Pulling that out, and this whole thing will
pulling that out?
Yeah. This whole thing will and just let it drop.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yes.
That was a lot. That was kind of like taking off a shirt. Much easier than the way I pulled it off.
Sure. But again, there's multiple approaches, and it's just learning which which one works, but always about relationships.
We're going to turn you just a little bit, ladies, because the glare of the beautiful sun.
Okay, nice.
So Michelle, if you're thinking about that most vulnerable position for that leader to be,
Yes.
and you're thinking about how can I be interested in him and not feel that spotlight of being interesting, which we know you're beautifully interesting and fascinating, but you're in relationship, what does that look like?
Well, obviously not dealing with a horse that's walking away from you. But here's Will. Will's my buddy. Will,
Change plans,
yes.
you know.
Be flexible. You know, you got different talents on your teams, and at times you need to be I'm a situational leader right now. Okay, so what do I need to do here with this guy?
So show us what you've been learning this morning about asking for him to acknowledge you. How will you ask him to acknowledge you?
Okay,
So putting yourself in a vulnerable position.
right, and then he's supposed to be lifting his head up, right?
Yes. However, how
There, look at he turned.
he did.
He
move
did. That was
away.
good. I'm supposed
Yes.
to acknowledge. That's like a little reward.
Yes. So releasing after that pressure is applied. How often do we not release and just keep the pressure on people?
Yeah.
What does that lead to?
Rebellion, resistance.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think
well
if you trust and empower animals and people with proper guidance, they will do things on their accord.
And they surprise us sometimes
Yes.
too, don't they?
Yes.
So in this moment, if you go directly behind him, literally with your torso pressed against his tail, just again to challenge you, and I'm going to come alongside you so that we're doing this together because
Okay.
you told me this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And often we send people out to do something, right? And we don't necessarily come alongside them to coach them along and to put ourselves in a vulnerable position as well. So together, I'm going to speak over here. I'm going to ask him to turn and acknowledge us, and we're going to keep moving with him until he.
Good job.
So what did you see?
Oh, well, I saw him move, and then I saw him do some noise. What's the noise about?
So in this case, some sneezing and just he's relaxed enough to graze in our space.
Okay.
And to, however, go back to grazing without finishing the turn.
So
But-
this is reinforcing behavior.
Mhm.
So many times, like a leader might ask somebody to do something but not follow up.
Yes.
So this is about following up and being consistent.
Yes. So we released in the moment where he did start to turn. We
Okay.
stopped applying the pressure, but now he's gone back to the other behavior.
Right.
And so it's an opportunity for us to keep asking the question.
Okay.
And how often though is it easier to go, okay, I'm not gonna do it anymore
No,
today.
He won. I'm not going to
Exactly.
force my desires.
Yes, exactly. So if I'm asking, so he has stopped grazing, and now what do you notice, Michelle, when you're practicing active listening with both ears and eyes?
Well, now he's more attentive.
Yes. And if I want to build on this, so I've stopped asking, released the pressure, but I now want him to acknowledge me by turning towards me. I want him to do the work with his face coming to me.
You know, and people are motivated. They do things for their reasons, not your reasons. So if you allow them, people, employees, to understand the objective or the goal, but do it on their terms.
Yes. And what did we notice about this last when he finally acknowledged, lifted his head from grazing and turned toward me? I wasn't anywhere near his
Right.
back end.
Right.
He's seeing that I'm consistent. I'm going to continue to pose the same question until I get the desired behavior.
Results. Yeah.
Until I get those results. Yes. So I didn't even have to go all the way behind him before he started to turn.
Oh, now he's going to move back around there. Okay.
So now I'm going to ask from the front to have him come, and he's disengaged, which is okay, right? So again, thinking about going back and making that ask, not needing to go all the way behind because he knows I'm willing to be vulnerable. So putting pressure on him in a different place. Good boy.
See,
And
that's
then
my dogs.
acknowledging, reinforce.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you know, Michelle, earlier you were telling us a little bit about what you've learned even from your dog as far as how you show up. And the being part of you. Can you talk a little bit about how this is similar
Yeah.
and different?
The main thing is energy. You know, the energy that I bring home after I've been gone affects them because they come and they're all excited just as I'm excited to see them. We saw this with the horses. You know, our energy is observed and responded accordingly. And I think that's emotional intelligence. You know, we need to be more aware of how we show up, how we are in the moment, and to what degree is our energy positive or negative influencing others.
Yes, beautifully stated. Exactly. So what else would you like people to apply or take away from this that is applicable to their workspace? And just some of what you've been learning.
Sure. You know, just the whole awareness of how their behavior is in accordance to ours, our objectives. You know, they can't read our minds, but in many ways they feel like they do.
Yes, so they can sense, they have a highly sensitive nature and can definitely tell, as we saw this morning, what is going on within us. And when we are too busy to be aware of what is going on within us, that sends a whole another set of messages, right?
Yeah.
And so often as humans, with agendas and to-do lists and all of that, we're thinking all about what do I have to do? What do I get to do today? Instead of how is my being self showing up and affecting others, and what is the impact of that on our relationships? So we are now back to 2 horses.
Hey, nice.
And one of the things that happened today during this session, for all of you viewers, is that this was very different from our first and our second one.
Yeah.
And so that is extremely real here. We have an idea when you come to us with a problem to solve. We have very clear objectives of how we want to help you solve it. But as life happens, we also have things that show up unexpectedly that we're able to step into and ebb, flex, and flow.
Right.
Can you tell us about the benefit of flexible thinking?
Oh gosh, you know, if anything, again, another silver lining out of COVID is taught us about agility. You know, how able are you to change your thoughts, your ideas, your actions, your policies, your procedures? You know, in order for organizations today to survive, they can't do what they've always done. And so I think, you know, the whole, you've been very agile, responding to the needs that we have to do these webinars, but as well as honoring the needs of your courses. So being aware of and adapting to still achieve the desired outcome.
I appreciate that, and great point. Very well said. Dana, how are we doing on time? Because I am very intrigued by the opportunity to challenge Michelle yet again with a different activity than we've done. However, I want to be sensitive to everybody's time today.
Right.
You're good. You got 8 minutes.
Okay,
all right.
cool.
So as an opportunity for you to put yourself in a different vulnerable position, because you are so awesome at showing up and demonstrating for our viewers, I would love for you to approach Yeller in the position you're at where your front is pointing this way. So walking up to him, stopping, and using your hand to ask him to pick up this foot so that you can hold his hoof in your hand. Okay. And I appreciate.
You guys are gonna get my back. Well, no,
that's
We'll move around.
Reposition
Oh,
yourself.
am I doing it the wrong way?
Yep. So you were
Oh.
doing it well there.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, mistake. We build from it.
Okay.
We learn. But those hands are your ass,
Ah,
and you're gonna run that hand down his leg. And if you are present, which you are,
Yes. Okay.
release. All right. How did that feel?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
What was cool about it?
Well, I obviously was confused because I didn't know how to do it.
That's okay.
I'd seen the activity done,
Mhm.
but didn't really know what the actual technique is.
There you go. However, your willingness to, again, that's a very vulnerable position to be in, right? By a big leg, right?
Yes.
Yet you were consistent with your ask. You kept your hand applied and you asked clearly, patiently.
Mhm.
The result of getting his foot to be placed in your hand, who was doing the work there?
He actually did. I mean, it was almost like he knew what was going on, and
Yes.
I just kind of guided the way.
Yes. And so exhibiting that leadership where he could trust you to hand you his foot, that puts him in an even more vulnerable position than normal because he's only got 3 legs in that moment.
That's true. You could fall over at any time.
Exactly. So So that was a beautiful testament to how far you've come in your experience. And if you ever make the time to join us again, the activities will continue to get more challenging. And there's some pretty fun ones that can occur with individuals and teams, as far as there's a whole host of possibilities that obviously in 30 minutes we've covered just the surface.
Yeah.
Just really scratching
Well,
the
Dana and I
surface.
want to thank you, because this was a wonderful experience for us, getting to not only know you, but to know your horses. And whether you are afraid of horses or not, this is something that you can all take from wherever you are, whether you're stressed, whether you're a new leader. It just has so much application.
Yes, and I appreciate you mentioning before we wrap up and turn it back to Dana, if somebody is fearful on your team, it's absolutely okay to let us know that. We have a way for you to still participate, but not put yourself in the space of the horses, still be a part of it, still join us in the reflection part and the application of what are we learning, and then how do we apply that learning in our workplace.
Great.
Hey, Kim, what if they don't live around here?
Oh, wonderful question, Dana. Thank you so much. So our motto is have horses will travel. So if you are not currently in the central Iowa space, that is okay. We have flex and flow with whatever shows up, and we are more than willing and grateful for the opportunity to bring horses to you, and we can talk about what kind of facility needs are helpful, and there's always a way to solve something, right? So we're all about solving and trying new things. So we have traveled plenty, so that is definitely a possibility.
Great, thank you. Hey, Cindy,
Yes, ma'am.
I want to give you a kudos and acknowledge you for being a wonderful camera woman. And turn that around so we can see your lovely face. Say hi, Cindy.
Takes a village.
Yes, ma'am. And do people know Dana?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Up there on the porch.
well, you guys have been so fun to work with. We've learned so much from this experience, and I am so excited to share with you the webinar special that they're offering. I'm going to get back to my PowerPoint here so you can see what that is. It is very generous. So they have a mini workshop coming up October 2nd, and you should have a handout for that. The regular price for this mini workshop is $50, and they're offering that half price, so you get $25 off of that. I would highly encourage anybody to who's interested in learning more to participate in this. And then they are also giving teams a 50% credit per person towards a half-day workshop. And again, what you saw today is just a small sampling of what you will receive. And this is a great opportunity, and it is fun. You just never know what's going to happen. The experience is unpredictable, but you do come out of it learning something about yourself. Take a look at their flyer, the How We Serve You, and their information, contact information is on there as well. And I will be sending out their contact information with the follow-up email with the recording and all of this other information. So feel free to share this with any of your friends, family. This is a great opportunity for even church groups or family to get together and just get out in the country and enjoy it. Our upcoming webinars are 30 minutes. Again, we've got October 16th, another guest presenter, Thea Ducro. She's going to be talking about walking in wonder and leaderships. November 20th, I'll be introducing you to a new Wiley learning platform called Everything Disc Workplace on Catalyst. And it's awesome. It's more interactive and a great use of this platform. December 18th, Michelle will be talking about navigating your ship out of the COVID storm. Now that we are this far into the COVID, what's next? How are you going to, what changes are you going to make with your company? When you leave here, please complete the evaluation that pops up. Kim and Cindy, I know, are very interested in your feedback, as well as we are too. Again, this is a great opportunity. If you are interested in learning more, you can put that in the evaluation that when you complete it. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you bearing with us with the technology and the animals, very all unpredictable and things. None of these webinars have been alike. We never know what's going to happen. So thank you for taking your time this morning and joining us for this wonderful, wonderful webinar and a beautiful day. Make it a great day for yourself and others.